just a couple minutes. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes to get people, to allow people to get on, and we will start promptly in 2 minutes at 6:05. And again, for those of you just joining us, my name is Tracy Craig, and I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. This meeting is being hosted by Alameda County Department of Environmental Health to discuss proposed environmental activities at the 1532 Peralta Street site, and most importantly, to answer the public's question and get public input. We'll get started at promptly 6:05. That's in 1 minute. We're just going to give people like 1 more minute to get on. Good evening. My name is Tracy Craig, and I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. With me tonight is Sarah and Ariel, and they'll be monitoring the meeting logistics. Can you two just raise your hands so people know who you are? Okay. This meeting is being hosted by Alameda County Department of Environmental Health and is being held to discuss and receive comments on proposed environmental activities for the 1532 Peralta Street site in Oakland. We do have Spanish translation tonight, and I'm going to give Sarah just a minute to explain that. Sarah?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight's meeting. As Tracy mentioned, the meeting will be available in both English and Spanish. If you're interested in listening to the meeting in Spanish, I'm going to ask that you navigate to the bottom of your screen and click on the globe icon that says interpretation. If you're joining by the phone, you may not see the globe icon. In that case, I'm going to have you click the ellipses or the 3 dots and then click on the globe icon. From there, you can select the language as Spanish, and you can, to hear only the interpreted language, you will also have an option to mute the original audio, so you're not hearing both the English and the Spanish version. I'm going to pause for a moment to allow our interpreters to translate what I just said, and then we can move on. All right, Tracy, I'm going to move on and give this back to you.
Okay. So again, my name is Tracy Craig, and I'll be moderating this meeting tonight for Alameda County Department of Environmental Health. A couple things to note: we do have Spanish interpretation. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded on the Water Board's GeoTracker site, which Alameda County also uses, so that people may watch it at a later date. This is a Zoom webinar. That means that attendees do not have audio or visual feed, but we have only one attendee, so I'm going to go ahead and promote our attendee to a panelist so we can all see each other and talk amongst ourselves. If you would like to comment at any time, you can raise your virtual hand, or you can raise your real hand, or you can type your question in the question and answer box. This meeting is being held again to provide information about and receive public comments on plans to address contamination in soil and groundwater for the 1532 Peralta project site. We are in the middle of a public comment period, which started August 31st and runs through September 30th, 2023. The public comment period was announced through a fact sheet that was distributed via U.S. mail and email. This slide shows our agenda. We'll start with introductions of the project team and the attendees we have here, or the participants, followed by about a 15 to 20 minute presentation, and then questions and answers. I would ask you to hold your questions till the end of the presentation, since most of them will probably be answered during the presentation, unless, of course, you have clarifying questions. And if you do, please raise your virtual hand and I will unmute you. I would like to introduce our project team first, and then we'll move on to the presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so these projects do not happen in a vacuum. With me tonight is Alameda County. This is their meeting. So with me tonight is Dylan Rowe. Dylan is the Chief of Land and Water. And Dylan, can you raise your hand? And then also Eva Hay, who is the case manager. So she manages the day-to-day aspects of the project. The water board is also involved, and our water board person that we're working with is Casey. Oh, I don't think I can do that. Satkowski. And then the City of Oakland also has somebody in the planning department that is involved in this project. But again, this is Alameda County's meeting, and we are here to talk about environmental issues only tonight. And then our project team. Okay, so the development team, we have James Tracy, no relation to me, who's the actual property owner. Can you raise your hand? Thanks. And then Mr. Tracy's environmental group is Wheeler Environmental, and with us tonight is Brent Wheeler, and then Mark Youngkin. And they also have Mike Pedigo, who is with the JHA remediation. Okay, and finally then, Craig Communications, I'm Tracy, with me is Sarah, and then Ariel. Next slide. Okay, so site is located, you can see it right there, right on Peralta Street, bordered by 16th and Center in Oakland. And just a quick site overview. The site did operate as a gas station for quite some time. There were 3 underground storage tanks that were removed, and some limited soil cleanup was conducted. Also, the infrastructure underneath the ground, some of that was removed as well. Still, there's lead and petroleum products in soil and groundwater, and those are what we're talking about tonight. I want to make a note that this site is being cleaned up under the state's low threat closure policy. And then Alameda County is the agency that oversees the cleanup of below ground contamination. So that again is the soil and the groundwater. And that's a picture of the site on the right. Next slide. Okay, and then I'm going to hand this over to Dylan, and she's going to go through the environmental investigations that were conducted, what was found, how we're proposing to clean it up, and then I'll take it back on community protection measures. Dylan, how's that?
Perfect. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone, or one person. My name is Dylan Rowe. I am the Chief of the Land and Water Protection Division for Alameda County. And we're just going to run through a brief summary of what's going on and what you can expect to see happening here. So environmental investigations have been conducted for quite a number of years, from 2004 to 2023. And basically, the investigations are to determine the extent of the impacts to soil and soil gas and groundwater from releases from underground storage tanks at the site. Investigation findings is that there are petroleum products in soil and groundwater. And then there's some lead in shallow soil. The focus of this remediation project is about petroleum. If the site is ever redeveloped, lead contamination would be addressed under a different program. So soil vapor, and also if the property is redeveloped in the future, then soil vapor would also be reevaluated, just to make sure that no residual contamination posed a risk to future proposed property use. Next slide. So this is a busy map. It's a little map, but it's a busy map. And basically what it shows is all the locations where soil or groundwater or soil vapor has been collected at the site, so samples from the subsurface. And that's represented by all of these little colorful dots on the map. It's a pretty small site, and a lot of investigation has been done, and we have a pretty good handle on where the contamination is at this site. Next slide. So corrective action implementation plan has been developed, and it proposes excavation of contaminated soil. And the corrective action implementation plan, if you're interested, summarizes investigation findings that have been conducted throughout 2023 and all the results of all those samples that were collected that I showed on the previous slide. The corrective action implementation plan, in addition to excavation of soil, includes plans for management of groundwater that is encountered during the excavation, and then management of traffic, dust, diesel emissions, and odor emissions during remediation. This is going to potentially have some odor impacts. It is an old release site, old petroleum release site, so there may be some odor emissions that you experience if you live nearby. And then ACAD, the reason we're having this meeting is we're in the middle of a 30-day public comment period on the corrective action implementation plan. And this meeting is intended to answer questions during that period, but all public that have received this notification have until, what's the date, Tracy? The end of our public comment?
End of September.
Okay, end of September to review the documents and provide written comment to environmental health for consideration before we approve the plan. Next page. So this picture shows the kind of equipment you can expect to see. If you see this, they're digging out petroleum impacted soil. So the first step will be that they'll remove the asphalt concrete in the areas where they're going to excavate. And then they're going to excavate up to 10 feet below ground surface in a portion of the site. And they're going to remove contaminated soil deeper than 5 feet in small sections to provide greater control of odor and emissions. As I said, they're going to remove groundwater if it's encountered during excavation, and they'll store that temporarily on site and then transport that off site to a disposal facility, along with any soil that has been contaminated. I believe, but I'm not sure, Brent, is this direct load?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So all soil that's excavated will be directly loaded into the truck. You see that in that bottom picture on this slide. Instead of excavating and stockpiling and then picking it up again and removing it later, it'll go straight into trucks, and then the trucks will go offsite to a landfill. And then the excavations will be backfilled with clean soil and concrete. Remind me, Brent, this is slot excavation, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Trench slot excavation.
And the next slide actually shows pictures of that.
Okay.
So let's go to the next slide so you can explain that.
Perfect.
There you go.
There you go. So this is the area where the excavation is going to occur. And as I just kind of touched on, the method of excavation is called slot trenching. And basically it's excavation of 5-foot wide trenches. I think that's probably fair enough to say. And then backfilling of those trenches immediately so that the amount of area that is open is limited during any time. And this is a really good way both for stabilization of the excavation, management of groundwater. There's less open area for groundwater to come into the excavation, and also for odor emission. And you can see here, there's a plan. You can look at this in more detail in the case files, but there's numbering of the sequencing of how these trenches will occur. Next slide. So during excavation, Alameda County Environmental Health wants to help protect the community as best we can from any impacts during the excavation. And one of the most important ways that we do that is through a community air monitoring plan. And that plan is up is in the case files. But basically, the plan involves installation of these little machines that you see in these pictures, and then monitoring and sampling those. These monitors are monitoring dust in real time. And dust is what we want to make sure is that dust is not leaving the site. Lead contamination adheres to dust particles, so minimizing dust at the site is important. All the protective levels for these monitors, as they're monitored, there will be people on site looking at the monitoring. And there are trigger points when work will stop if exceedances are discovered. And those trigger points are very conservative, meaning we don't wait till there's so much of a concern. We catch it before there's a big concern and then make any kind of corrective actions to the work that's being done at the site to make sure that air remains at safe levels. Next slide. And at this site, there are 6 monitoring stations, and basically we're trying to monitor all perimeter boundaries of the site. Dust usually flows in one, or prevailing wind direction at this site is from the left-hand side of the page to the right-hand side of the page. But as we all know, wind blows in all kinds of directions and you get gusts. And so it's a pretty small site, and there are going to be monitors that are all the way around just to make sure that while this is being done, that we have a good handle on what's going on with the air monitoring. Next slide.
Okay, I can take it over from here. So protecting the community of utmost importance to Alameda County. And as Dylan said, air will be monitored at the fence line using several locations. Also, as she also talked about, the management of soil, very, very important to limit dust. So we're limiting the size of excavations to those 5 feet. Slot trenching, exposed soil is kept wet. You can see there's a fellow in the upper right corner there spraying water. We are direct loading onto trucks, which means that we won't have as many soil stockpiles on there. And we have a stop work on windy days. And then also we make sure that the equipment is free of soil before it leaves the site, and we'll be doing street sweeping as well. And then again, stormwater management, that would be rainwater and other things that run off. We want to make sure that's controlled as well. So there's a management plan to keep stormwater on the site. And we also have site signage with a number to call for concerns. I am also your first line of contact, so I will give everybody my cell phone. And it's also on the fact sheet, and it's in another slide. But if you have any kind of issues with odor, dust, anything, you can call me and I will immediately address it with the project team. Next slide, Sarah. Okay, and then truck management. Trucks are always a big issue in the community, so trucks are going to be staged off-site and they aren't allowed to park on residential streets. They'll be turning off when they're getting loaded so that there won't be any of those emissions associated with the truck idling. Trucks are cleaned and inspected before they leave the site. It's both the undercarriage and the tires so that they don't track dirt out into the community. Of course, all the drivers are licensed to drive the big rig trucks. And we have an approved truck route that's approved by the city of Oakland that we need to follow that minimizes truck traffic through residential streets. And the next slide actually shows the truck route. So there you go. The site is there. You will be going down there, then down 18th Street and out to I-980, depending on which way they're going to get rid of the soil. And then next slide, Sarah. And then just communications. As I said before, we do have a site signage with a contact number that people can call if they have any kind of questions. I'm also available. I'm probably the better person to call simply because I answer my cell phone. We will be distributing a work notice 7 days before the work actually starts. And then all of the work associated with the technical reports, the fact sheets, the work notices are all uploaded to the Water Board's GeoTracker site that Alameda County also shares. So all of the information is readily available to the public. Okay, next slide. Okay, so our schedule, we're right in the middle of the public comment period that ends on September 30th. Alameda County will be reviewing all the comments received, and before they make a decision to approve, deny, or modify that corrective action plan. And then we'll issue a response to comments. And what that is just a document that lists all of the comments that were received and tells how the county considered those in making a final decision on the site. Again, a work notice will be distributed, and then environmental cleanup should start in October and will last just about 4 weeks. Currently, there are no plans for site redevelopment, so this cleanup is just to get petroleum soil out of the site. Next slide. Okay, so how to provide comments. Again, Eva is the case manager. There is her address. You can either comment tonight, or you can email or mail in comments. And again, those are due by September 30th. And then finally, I think our last slide is for more information. So there is my number. That's my cell number. I really do answer it 24/7. So you need to call me in the middle of the night because something isn't looking good on the site. I will answer it and deal with it. And then that is GeoTracker. That's the Water Board's website. And if you have any kind of problem accessing that, because it can be a bit complicated, you can call me as well, and I'm happy to walk people through it. So that concludes our presentation. I do notice that we have somebody from the Prescott Neighborhood Council here. So I'm wondering, Chris, I don't know what your last name is, but I'm wondering if you'd like to show us your, put on your video and ask any questions, or at least just introduce yourself and tell us what you're interested in. Oh, Marcus, please, absolutely. Please join. Sarah, you want to unmute him? I think he is. I think he has full privileges because yeah, Marcus, you can talk anytime you like.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Right?
We can hear you, yes.
Great. So if you look at slide 15, it shows the activity where the truck is being loaded with dirt. And if you look to the right of that, the fencing is lower than the dumpster height. So what do you do about the concern that dirt gets airborne?
Sarah, can you just get that slide up so we can see what he's looking at, please? Slide 15 is what he was referring to. So you're saying the fence is low. Well, this might not be the best picture, but the question is, Dylan, that the fence is lower than the actual arm of the excavator. So how do we make sure that dust doesn't blow out over that?
Yep, it's a good question, Marcus. And there's a couple things you can see. This isn't exactly the site, and first of all, I'm going to ask a question as we go, but I'm going to delay that for a second. There are a lot of protocols in place about when you excavate soil and you load it into the truck, like limiting the height of the truck or of the excavator arm so that it doesn't drop a large distance, and keeping that soil moist so that it does not generate dust. And you can see in this picture also, there is somebody standing there with a water hose spraying that water. It is the purpose of the air monitors and the on-site people that are looking and watching this to stop work that is causing dust. I won't lie, this is an excavation site, and so there's a potential for some fugitive dust emissions to happen. They happen on all sites. But it really is our intent to minimize them and really to try to make sure that they don't happen. And if the excavation is occurring and there is dust, the people on site have authority to stop work, and we expect that work to be stopped. We also want to hear from neighbors immediately if something's going on. Some sites you can have fences that are a little bit higher. And I don't know, I think this has a pretty low fence, and this was Brent. I don't think we're loading right on the property lines, are we? Where are the trucks going to be when they load?
They're going to be loaded along the parking lane of the majority along Peralta Street in the parking lane.
Oh, they are. So let me see where that is. So the trucks will be off-site and the excavators will be dumping it into a truck off-site?
I believe so. Mike, are you on the call, Mike?
Yeah, sorry about that. Had to unmute. Hi, Dylan.
Hey.
We'll actually be probably direct loading from the excavator, depending on which holes we're accessing at what time. We'll have a loader on site as well, like that's in that one picture, loading that dumpster. So we'll direct load into the trucks with the loader, because you'll be limited on your reach from the excavator.
Yeah.
So we'll be loading the trucks with wheel loader.
So the soil will be excavated with a long arm reach and put on the ground and then used with a different loader to put in trucks?
Some of it'll probably go from the excavator bucket directly into the loader bucket. If there's any on the ground, it's going to be minimal.
Got it. But the trucks are not going to be in the street for loading, correct? Because that's
They have to be for this particular site because there is not enough room to bring an 18-wheeler on the job site. The footprint of this project and the amount of excavation we're taking, there's not enough room to bring trucks on site.
So those perimeter air monitoring stations don't mean anything, Brent. If you're loading a truck that's off-site, those perimeter monitoring stations don't work. This is something we're going to think about. I don't know. Maybe you're not doing 18-wheelers. That's problematic to me. So I think that Marcus, I'm gonna discuss that a little bit more with the contractors and try to figure out how we minimize that. But what I can say is we're going to use all efforts that we can to minimize drop height. And I think one of the comments here was that it goes from a bucket into a loader into the trucks, but that starts to be handling a lot of material a lot of times. And every time you handle material, you have more potential for generating dust. So it is a comment that we will take into consideration. And I appreciate you asking it because it prompted a question from me. And then we'll be working with the consultant and the contractor to see what we can do that's most optimal and that is feasible on the site.
And Marcus, if you can put your email in the chat box, we will make sure that we email you the new plan as a result of your comment. Okay, other comments? And if you want to show your face, please do so.
If I can continue, I had probably one or two more questions.
Absolutely.
Now I'm even more concerned. It's going from, it's like there's an extra step in moving the dirt. So I'm a little bit more concerned. The other question I had was around the monitoring and sampling. And is the reporting or the report out from that, is it in real time? Is there an audible alarm or
That's
something?
correct. That's correct. We're actually going to have an on-site real-time weather station showing the wind speed, direction, ambient temp, precip, barometric pressure, and so on and so forth. And then we're also going to have some dust monitoring, aerosol monitoring, with real-time dust monitoring, probably, on a range 15-minute to 1 hour averaging. So throughout the entire day of excavation activities.
Okay.
And again, to remind everyone, there's only going to be 3 slot trenches performed per day. So hopefully we'll minimize all this airborne particulate matter, and the soils will probably be moist since the majority of the soils down in, between 5 and 10 feet will be in groundwater.
Okay. And
So yes, and Marcus, all the real-time air monitoring, that'll all be recorded and provided in our final report.
So it will actually be provided in weekly reports. Okay. So that's
Yes.
something, yeah, we don't wait till the final. We'll be monitoring also, and we'll be asking them to report any exceedances if they occur, and then the documents, because it's difficult to put up real-time raw data for monitoring, but they will be uploaded on a weekly basis. And if there are issues with the monitoring or with the excavation, again, corrections will be made. I think that there are I think the challenge to the site is the loading in Peralta. I think the management of soil and the dust, like Brent said, is we expect that it to be fairly moist because it's deeper and groundwater is shallow. But again, there's a lot of attention being paid, Marcus, on this, and appreciate your comments, because this is to me, there's 2 goals here. One is to get the stuff out of the ground, And the second is to not impact a community where this stuff is already more than it's been impacted.
Okay. And my second to last question is, how long of a process is this going to take? Is there an estimate of time that you're going to need to accomplish?
So Brent, is it a month for 3 trenches a day? How many trenches do you got?
We have a total, let's see, that one plan, if you can go back to that, Tracy or Sarah. There you go. There's a total of 23 slot trenches. And of course, there's a sequencing plan. So on day 1, for instance, we're going to be doing 1, 7, and 13 according to the JHJ. Okay. So this will last, and according to JHJ, is 30 working days. So we're looking at a month and a half, 2 months.
So I think the important thing here, Marcus, is it's gonna take some time, but the amount of area that is excavated on any particular day is minimized. And like Brent just said, like if it's hard to read this figure, but like one day, trenches, they won't be excavated, the trenches won't be excavated one right next to the other. There's one trench and then you step away quite a bit, you excavate another, you step away, you excavate another, so that you can backfill and keep this excavation stable. So I think that's a really important piece, and it's one of the reasons why slot trenching was selected at this site, to minimize impacts, to minimize both odor, dust generation, and any instability impacts. And slot trenching is a really effective way of removing this kind of contamination.
Okay. My last question is, I may have missed this, is this going to be Monday through Friday only, as far as the work?
I'm told it is, and if I'm told it is, then it is going to be Monday through Friday, 7 to 6. Those are hours allowed by the city of Oakland.
Okay. And if there's a time when you need to go over 6 p.m. or even on the weekend, is there a way that the community members can be notified of this?
It is my intention that it will not go beyond 6 p.m. I want a tight control of this. We're too busy of an agency to be trying to figure out and make exceptions. So Marcus, it's my goal to enforce the plan here, which is 7 to 6 p.m. period.
And the only thing I would add is that if there's some kind of situation that we're dealing with that makes us have to stay out there longer for some reason, then I'd be happy to email you what's going on and let you know in real time. If we don't intend to, but if something happens that's extraordinary out there and we have to say a fence, something happens to the fence, I'll let you know.
Yes, and I would appreciate any update or anything that changes from what's being said today.
Right, and I was going to say also, I'm happy to come out to the Prescott Neighborhood Council if the timing is right. We're thinking this work will start in October, but if the timing is right, we're happy to come out and make a report on what we're doing. Or if we're halfway through, just check in with you folks and attend your meeting.
Okay, and October may be a time that might be appropriate for an update. So,
well, we assume that we're going to be starting this work in October, and we'll be sending a work notice out in advance of that. So 5 working days in advance to let the community know that we're doing that. We'll be probably partway through the work in October, and I'm happy to attend your meeting and give you an update.
okay, October or November, either one.
Actually, well, November, we're hopefully going to be saying we're almost done, but yes, October or November would be fine, depending on what works with your schedule.
So, and one of the concerns I have is that on Sundays, we have a farmer's market.
Okay.
In Peralta.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be great if nothing that's occurring at this site interferes with that.
Yep.
Got it.
Sunday work is not allowed.
Great.
Under any circumstances.
Also thinking that we need to button up the site quite well, so nothing blows off or interferes in any way also.
Yep.
So Dylan, you may know the answer to this, but Did this station used to be Jerry Station?
I
Maybe
don't-
in the
I don't-
50s, 60s?
I don't know that. Is that a station you remember?
Yes.
I don't know, Marcus, but I know that there was a good release in the ground, and this is going to be a good thing for this neighborhood to get it out of the ground.
Oh, absolutely. We've got a lot of them that we need to deal with.
Yep, I know. So we're going to keep working on these one at a time, and I appreciate the property owner, James. I appreciate, his moving this forward and working with us to get this remediated. It'll be a good thing to get done.
It will be. And James, if you could copy my email address, I would appreciate it. And you can keep me updated what your future plans are. That might be of interest as well to the Prescott community members. And we could set up a meeting so you could do a presentation or tell us about it. Unless you sell the site after you remediate it.
I got your contact information now.
Thanks. Well, I appreciate all the information. That's all the questions I have. But if you give me another 15, 20 minutes, I'm sure I could think of some more.
Well, here's something that you can do. So my cell phone number is 510-334-4866. It's also in the chat box. My name is Tracy Craig. And if you think of 5 more questions in 15 minutes, you give me a call and I'll make sure that you get those answered. But we will be following up with you, one, on the question about where the trucks will be on Peralta and how air will be monitored there. And also I'll follow up with you via email about coming in October or November to address the Prescott Neighborhood Council and give them an update on the project, okay?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you
Marcus,
for
Marcus,
attending.
Marcus, I appreciate you attending. I appreciate your input always on your community, and spread the word to your friends in the future about different sites, because environmental health wants to continue one at a time. This is one. This is going to be a good success story. We're going to get this out of the ground, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Right. And these kind of projects are on our radar. So
Yep.
we're constantly watching.
Yeah, good. Okay,
Great. Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Everyone, good night.